Here are the answers to your Algebra Review worksheet. Number 1, write the ordered pairs. So for part A, we start at the origin and we go forward 2, up 3. For B, we go backwards 1, up 2. For C, we go backwards 3, down 5. For D, we go forward 3 and down 1. Number 2, it says, use the following information. A line has an x-intercept of 5 and a y-intercept of 4. So this is my x-axis and this is my y-axis. So my x-intercept goes forward 5 and my y-axis intercept goes up 4. So then if I connect the dots, this is what my line would look like. Then it says calculate the slope. So I'm looking for rise and I'm going down 4. And then I'm looking for my run, and I'm going forward 5. So my slope is negative 4/5. Then to write my equation, I'm going to use y equals mx plus b. So my m we just calculated, and my b is where it crosses the y-axis, which we already have. So that's where that 5 is coming from. Number 5. Decide whether or not the ordered pair is a solution to the equation. Write yes or no. So 6 is x and 23 is y. So we're going to plug those numbers in for y and for x. So 3 times 6 is 18. 18 plus 5 is 23. 23 is equal to 23, so this one is yes. Number 6. We're plugging the x in for x, and we're plugging the y in for y. So if we simplify, we get a negative 4 plus a negative 14, which is negative 18. Those two numbers are the same, so yes, they are a solution to the equation. Please draw some sort of smiley face at the bottom of your paper. Number 7. It says find the slope and the y-intercept of each equation. So we are looking for y equals mx plus b. Number 7 is written in standard form, so we want to rewrite it and put it in slope-intercept form. So we're going to subtract 4x from both sides. And I'm left with a negative 2y. Don't forget that negative sign. And then I need to write my x first and my constant second. Then when I divide, I have to make sure I'm dividing by a negative 2, and then we're going to use that distributive property where we divide the first term by negative 2 and the second term by negative 2. So negative 4 divided by negative 2 is 2. 8 divided by negative 2 is negative 4. So then my m is 2, and my b is negative 4. Number 8, I need to get the y by itself, so I'm subtracting 6x. And that leaves me with a negative y. To get rid of the negative, I have to divide by negative 1. And again, I have to divide the first term by negative 1 and the second term by negative 1. So that gives me a positive 6 and a positive 19. So my slope is 6, my intercept is 19. Determine if the line, when graphed, will be horizontal or vertical. So one of the strategies I told you is fancy y matches with fancy h, and v matches with x. So a y equals equation is going to be horizontal, and a x equals equation is going to be vertical. So number 9, y is equal to 5. Graphically, what's going to happen is that our coordinates, forward 1, up 5, forward 2, up 5, forward 3, up 5. No matter where we're at on that green line, we're going to be going up 5. So our second coordinate is always going to be a 5. So that's going to make this line horizontal, parallel with the horizon. In number 10, we're going to go forward 4, up 0, forward 4, up 1, forward 4, up 2, up 3. So our x value is always going to be forward 4. So that's going to make a vertical line. 11 and 12. Find the slope of the line that passes through the 2 points. You may plot the points at first, but you don't have to. So let's practice with the slope formula. So we want to do our y's first. So I'm going to circle my y's, negative 1 minus 3, and 4 minus a minus 2. So that gives me a negative 4 over 6. Both of those numbers are even, so I can reduce this to negative 2 thirds. If I were to graph this, I'd plot my points, and then I'm counting down 4, forward 6, and notice if I would count down 2, forward 3, I would also be on my graph. Number 12, we want to do our y's first. So 5 minus 0 over 3 minus a minus 4, so I get 5/7. So this graph is going to have a positive slope. So I'm rising up 5 and going forward 7. 13 and 14. Find the x and y intercepts for the following lines. Well, to find our x-intercept, we're plugging 0 in for, yep, you got it, y. To find our y-intercept, then we're plugging 0 in for x. So that's what we want to remember. And when we plug in for 0, what we can do is just cover up that part. So for our x-intercept, if y is equal to 0, then 6 times 0 is 0, so that disappears. So this is what we're picturing in our heads. Negative 4x equals 24. So negative 4x equals 24 because this piece turns into 0. So if we divide that by negative 4, we get x equals negative 6. Then to do our y-intercept, we're going to plug in 0 for x. So negative 4 times 0 is 0. So this is nothing. So we get 6y equals 24. 6y equals 24. So 6 times what number is 24? 4. So our y-intercept is 4. Number 10. To find our x-intercept, we're plugging 0 in for y. So negative 3 times 0 is 0. So we get 10x is equal to 30. Divide both sides by 10, and x is equal to 3. For our y-intercept, we're going to plug 0 in for x, so 10 times 0 is 0, and I get negative 3y equals 30. Divide by a negative 3, so y is equal to negative 10. So if I were to look at the graph, this is what I would have. My intercepts are at negative 6 and positive 4, and then we draw a line through it. Number 14, we have an intercept at positive 3 and negative 10, and then we could draw a line through it. I know you didn't have to graph, but visually it's nice to see what standard form actually does for us. Please draw a heart next to the word Algebra Review up on the top of your paper. Please draw a heart. 15 and 16, solve for x. So this just goes back to our chapter 3 and chapter 2 where we're solving equations. So I drew a line through the equal sign. We want to get our letters together, get our numbers together. So I'm going to add 6x to both sides, and I get 8x plus 4 equals 8. And now my last step is to subtract 4 to get our numbers together. So I get 8x equals 4. I'm running out of space, so I'm just going to rewrite that over here. So I'm going to divide by 8, divide by 8. 8 divided by 4 reduces to a half. So my solution is x equals 1/2. Number 16, I want to get my letters together. Well, if I subtract 6x, I end up with a negative, and I didn't want to do that. So I did this one a little different. I subtracted 3x on both sides. So 6 minus 3 gives me a positive 3x. If you did it the other way, you would have a negative 3x over here, which is fine, because at the end we're both going to get the same answer. So now I'm going to subtract 9, and I get negative 3 is equal to 3x. If you did it the other way, you would have 3x is equal to 3. Negative 3x is equal to 3. So we're going to divide by 3 to get the x by itself, and I get x is equal to negative 1. So if you would have done it the other way, you would have subtracted 6x and then subtracted 6, and you would have gotten negative 3x equals 3, dividing by a negative 3, and you're still going to get x is equal to negative 1. So whether you did it my way or this way, you should be getting x is equal to negative 1. Number 17, find the slope of the lines pictured. So I needed to find some dots. If I make this picture a little bit bigger, you can see what I'm going to talk about here. If I go up one box, over one box, I see that it looks like it hits, but if I keep doing that, up a box, over a box, I don't follow my line. So I don't think my slope is 1. So to be safe, I'm going to go from the first blue point to the second blue point. So it looks like I'm rising up 5 and forward 6. So that's going to be a positive 5, 6. I do not think that this is the slope of 1, because if I do 1 up here, I'm not on my graph. Number 18, I'm going to find some points on my line. It looks like I'm going down 2 and forward 4. Always reduce your fractions, and I get negative 1/2. Number 19 and 20, ask, is it a function, yes or no? So with a graph, we have to go back and review the vertical line test. If you can draw a vertical line anywhere on a graph so that it hits the graph in more than one spot, the graph is not a function. So we draw these red lines. If we touch more than once, then it's a no. So this only touches at one spot, one spot, one spot. So this would be a function. So I'm going to do the vertical line test. If I draw my line right here, it hits at one spot, but pretty much everywhere else it's going to hit at 2. So I'm going to say, no, this isn't a function. In number 20, we don't have a graph, we have a table. So let's look at our definition. Given a table, we want to look for one input for every output, or that none of the inputs can be repeated. So for example, here are some functions or some relations that we can analyze. Notice how negative 3 goes to one number, negative 2 goes to one number, goes to one number, goes to one number. So this would be a function. This one, they all go to the same number, but none of the domains are repeated, so this would be a function. This one, the 1 matches to 0 and it matches to 15, so that domain is used twice, so this is going to be a no. And then this last function, the domains are each used one time, so that is a function. So if we go back to our question, number 20, are any of these numbers used more than once? No, they match onto one output. So I would say that yes, this is a function. This slide was not on your worksheet. I just pulled in a sheet from the internet to go over to help you remember the definition of a function. Please draw a snowflake telling me that you listened to this part of the video. And draw it between number 19 and 20. A snowflake. The last question. We're talking about converting Celsius to Fahrenheit. And they give us the 2 points that we're supposed to plot. And I used a ruler to draw my line. Well, it says write an equation. To write an equation, we need y equals mx plus b. So we could figure out the slope graphically, but I think it's easier for us to use the slope formula. So I did y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then I divided it on a calculator and I got 1.8. So I know my answer should be y equals positive 1.8x plus something. And that something is my y-intercept. Normally on a problem like this, what we could do is pick one of our points, and I probably like this one better, and then plug in our slope in the pink, and then rewrite this equation. But I think there's an easier way to doing this so that we can figure out what our b is. If we look at our graph, B is really our y-intercept. So where does this cross the y-axis? At 32. So I'm going to argue that this coordinate is actually the B value, so I know that that number should be 32 because that's where our graph starts. This concludes the video. Please go to the front of your worksheet and write your name again on the front so it shows up twice. I'm just checking to make sure that everybody watched the video. Have a good day.